What's going on, guys? It's your old buddy, Brandon Lewis here. I've been getting a lot of calls and a lot of emails from folks trying to figure out what in the world's going on in the Tennessee legislature when we've got a Republican supermajority and the state overwhelmingly votes Republicans. How in the world could we find ourselves in a situation where every conservative reporter is banned from full access? So I just want to tell you kind of where we are and how we got here. So I started this publication 4 years ago out of complete distress because of COVID, and we fought real hard to get 2 medical freedom sessions to roll back all the negative things that Bill Lee had done to us. And the Tennessee legislature acquiesced to that, and to his credit, even though he did not stand up during any of it like he should have, Cameron Sexton is the first person who said we need to do something about this. As the data came in, he was really the only person in leadership that's like, yeah, we probably need to deal with this. So I will give him credit where credit's due there. But since I've been reporting the last 4 years, I've seen very little movement conservatively on issues like illegal immigration. There's nothing preventative. There's a whole bunch of ceremonial stuff. You've seen this monstrosity of a school choice bill that they're trying to ram down our throats, where it's going to cost $25,000 to give away a $7,000 scholarship, and there's lots of other strings attached to it. It's just been a mess, right? So essentially, how these guys campaign and how they govern are completely different. So we've been around for a while. We've got a pretty big list and an audience. We do the kind of reporting that nobody else does in the legislature. We're the only publication that thoroughly covers the legislature for GOP primary voters. Every other publication in the state covers it for basically Democrats and Republicans who hold their nose as they read the press coverage. So I just simply emailed Cameron Sexton and I said, hey, can we get full press access? We don't want to be a member of the press corps. Because I had heard from various sources, all of whom I trust, and I have verified this, that there are media outlets, TV stations, radio stations, personalities, etc., that get access to both the floor and the press conferences, and they're not members of the press corps. But I was talking to a radio personality, and he convinced me, hey, don't be crying until you've applied to the press corps. So I applied to Sexton. He pushed back and said, oh no, I have no authority to do that, which is not true. It's a complete lie. And go apply to the press corps. So I applied to the press corps. They unanimously rejected me, as you might imagine, because it's the Tennessee Lookout, who does some good reporting on some things, but they lean to the left. The Tennessean leans to the left. The AP leans way to the left. Public Radio, way to the left, Chattanooga Times, Free Press, etc. All left-leaning news organizations. And one thing about being turned down by the press corps that they cite is that we have the temerity to tell you, the GOP primary voter, like what to do on legislation. Meaning, let's say the press corps' tenet is that you shouldn't push for a particular piece of legislation, nor should you push for a particular candidate. That's the press corps' code of ethics, right? We all know that the liberal media does nothing but write negative articles about conservative candidates and conservative legislation all day long. So the deal is, apparently, you can write 100 negative articles, 0 positive articles, but as long as at the very end of your article, you don't say, call your state reps or go vote for somebody else, then you are completely in the clear. Completely in the clear. Which is, to me, a distinction without a difference, right? And it's all a big charade, and most of these publications get their funding from left-leaning corporations. Most Republicans in leadership get their money from left-leaning corporations and special interest. It's a uniparty. It's all the same stuff. It's all corrupt. And the lady, though, she did write me back, and she said plainly that she has never told any of the speakers who can and can't be on the floor. So not only was it not true when Cameron Sexton said it originally, I get it confirmed from Kim, who's over the press corps, that that is not the case either. That he could just say we have full press access. So here we are in Tennessee, a state that's supposed to be conservative, and I hope you will share this with other conservative media outlets. I think it's a huge story. I don't know if it'll be picked up or not. I doubt it. There's no money in covering state politics. But I think it's just amazing that we're in this supposedly super deep red conservative state, and we can't allow one viewpoint that is different than the mainstream narrative. We can't do it. Can't do it. Gotta be the corporate media or nobody. And I think it says a lot about Cameron Sexton that he feels most comfortable in the company of Democrat reporters. That's his sweet spot. That's where he shines. That's where he feels comfortable. They're all on the same team, apparently. I can't figure it out. But that's how we ended up here. So, Sexton turned us down. The press corps turned us down. And we've obviously told you about it. I know that thousands of calls and emails went into Cameron Sexton's office. I've heard. And I know our numbers. And I know our subscribers. And he ignored them all. And so I'm left, unfortunately, with the duty of now taking my case to Cameron Sexton's voters back in his district. So I have already purchased what we call in politics the 3 of 4 and 4 of 4 primary voters. That's everybody in Cumberland County and that little part of Putnam that actually votes for Cameron Sexton. And it ain't a lot of people. It's a small list. It's always a small list in these rural districts for folks like Cameron. And so it is my intention to do a free press petition. So we're going to contact directly these people. It's going to be about 15 to 30 days till I can get started because I'm traveling for work and I work in the Tennessee Conservative as a volunteer. I don't take a paycheck. So I've got to be real careful during my busy season about putting more on my plate than I can handle, which I frankly have already done. But I just got to have a little bit of time to build the infrastructure out. I already know how to do it. I've done this many times. And so we're just going to take our case directly to his voters. And we're going to see if we can accumulate enough signatures and build a large enough database that maybe if we send in 2,000 people that have filled out this petition in his district and he knows that they are primary voters, that maybe he'll be like, okay, I've changed my mind. I've changed my mind. My people have spoken. But he may not. And that's okay if he doesn't. If he doesn't decide to let us in, then I will have a list. And I love the first rule of politics, guys. Write this down. First rule of politics is build the list. Build the list. And the good news is, in state rep races, the list doesn't have to be that big. And people are hungry for a change. They're hungry for somebody who will tell the truth and not just be a figurehead. And so if he says no, we're still going to have a list of 2,000 people that have indicated that they think what he did wasn't good and probably would have a difference of opinion with him on a lot of legislation if they just knew how he voted. And that's the issue with most of these guys that are in office is they get so much corporate welfare money that they can bamboozle and fool their electorate. But if you get started early and you get the rumor mill going, and if the word on the street starts becoming negative, and that goes on for about 18 months, and then the last 6 months of the election, you got to try to combat all that, that's going to be hard to do. And so it is sad that so often politicians will not listen to the voters. They'll listen to the corporations that cut the checks, but they will not listen to the voters unless they feel threatened and they feel like there is a really good chance they might not retain their seat. And so that is the last recourse that anybody has in politics. But honestly, sometimes I think that's just where you should start. I mean, why even go through all the motions? But if you don't go through the motions, if you don't apply to Cameron Sexton, if you don't apply to all the Democrats for one Republican news outlet to get into the press corps, then they're like, oh, you didn't even go through the process. When you go through the process and what happens, it's the same crap you would expect. And so I would tell you guys, if you're in GOP politics, that you need to make certain you learn how to do things well politically. that you learn how to run races, how to organize, how to find like-minded people, how to keep up with what's going on, because you can make a difference. And we may have been swatted down by the great Cameron Sexton, but, I'll take my time. I'm not going anywhere here. And we'll see what we can do in about 30 to 45 days and see if we can change the tide and maybe get you some representation. Just one person, just one person in these press conferences that'll raise their hand and go, should we spend $25,000 on a $7,000 scholarship? Convince me that this is good. I mean, those are the kinds of questions that should be asked. We've got this illegal immigration problem. Why is it all the preventative legislation keeps getting killed, Mr. Sexton? If we're so conservative, I'm confused. Well, somebody should be asking those questions. Those are the types of questions that the mainstream media never asks. Because they don't want to know. They know the answer, right? They're all in on it together. So guys, I do my best here. I'm not a professional. I do this as a volunteer. I'm not a journalist. If it weren't for you, I couldn't even keep doing this. And so I appreciate all of you having my back. I appreciate every one of you who took the time to call, write, text, post on social media to try to get us access. It was unsuccessful, but at least they know that we're watching and paying attention. And as the evidence builds, I will close with this. You can have a few bad votes here and there. You can thumb your nose at people now and then, and it'll probably be okay. But when you accumulate a record that's bad enough, and you get an opponent who doesn't suck, and who will work, and who has somebody giving them good advice, and a good consultant, and a good strategy, those House races are easily won. Very easily won. And so you should get involved in your local GOP reorganizations. You should get involved in these state rep and these state senate races, and these county commission races, and these county mayor races, and these city council races, and everything else. And we will be having a conservative candidates academy sometime in the late spring. And so I'd like to invite all of y'all to come out for that, because we need more folks that are willing to run for office, but more importantly, ones that are equipped to win, that have a chance to win. Love you. Mean it. I appreciate you letting me ramble on here. Brandon Lewis with the Tennessee Conservative News. Right-wing extremist. Far-right blogger. What else? I'm trying to think of all the names they call me. I can't think of all of them because some of them you can't repeat on here. But I'm here, but only because y'all have been supporting me these last 4 years, both financially and with your prayers and your communication and everything else. So if y'all won't abandon us, we're going to keep fighting, and one day we will be in there. One day we will have one conservative reporter, one Republican reporter in the state of Tennessee that has the equal access to the Democrats. We may have to change speakers to get it, but we will get it. You mark my words. We'll keep plodding away at it until something happens, and with your help, we can make something happen. Love you. Be good. Have a good evening. Hope your new year is off to a great start. Take care.